Green screen keying and compositing in Avid Media Composer. This is the ultimate version, and we're going to use here effect palette. Well, of course, in the tracks here, we've got video track 2, video track 1. The upper one is the foreground, and the lower one is the background. Okay, we're going to come to the effects palette and choose here from the key. We're going to go for the spectra mat. Okay, we'll just drag it and drop it on our foreground. Once we do that, we then are able to open the effects here, the effect mode. We click on that, and then what happens is, well, by default, it is set to blue. Remember, this gentleman's suit was blue. All right, so by default, it picks the color blue. But we're going to change this. Before we talk about any tweaking of parameters, what SpectraMat does and how to go about it, I'm going to have to open a bracket to talk about a few mistakes in this video. This is a stock footage that is available to anybody to download, right? From a stock footage company, and I have chosen it for a particular reason, because it has a wonderful plethora of mistakes, because we are going to have to deal with these mistakes. But just number one, the lighting is uneven. So you can notice that there's only one light in the ceiling, and this is why this part is bright, this part is mid-tones, and this part is dark. You can notice that this is darker, okay? Number two is there are no tracking markers. If you're going to move the camera, then you have a problem with much moving. Number three, the actors are too close to the background. You need to have them meters away. Number four is because they are too close, we have our shadows in here, and you cannot have separate lighting. You have here a mixed light, like the same lighting is applied to the green screen and to the actors. You can't do that, and they need to be separate. And number five, and the most important, is that this footage is compressed. This is the enemy number one of visual effects and of green screen keying and compositing: compression. Because when you compress, you encode. When you encode, you're going to lose information, especially when you do it H.264. That is heavy compression, stuff that you find in online media. It's compressed heavily so that they can stream it with a small file size. Compression is basically you are losing information. How on earth can you choose to lose information when you need it desperately for visual effects and for green screen keying? So always go with RAW as the first choice. If not, go ProRes high quality. If not, then you go, but you don't go any lower than 4:2:10 bits. 4:2:10 bits is the absolute minimum. Now, is this footage 4:2:10 bit minimum? No, this is compressed H.264. This is a disaster situation, but I am going to show you how to do it even with a rubbish quality. This is not an excuse to set the bar lower during production. I need you to arrange a good quality footage for your green screen keying, okay? So having now talked about this, I'm going to move to the next step, which is basically working on the effects editor here and tweaking the parameters. Of course, we're going to have to choose a value of the green. So I'm going to click on this one, and then what are we going to choose? Any value whatsoever? Because I know I have very poor lighting here, I'm going to go with something that is a little on the dark side, okay? Why? Because if you select the bright ones, they don't include the darks, but if you select the darks, they are going to include the bright ones. Let's click somewhere here. Okay, now let me first move to the alpha. Show alpha. Here, we click show alpha. Yes, I know I have my background, but let's say show alpha. Can you see, before we move to the alpha, can you see his shoulder, his left shoulder? Well, why do you think I opened the brackets of the 5 mistakes in the video before even starting this? Because we are going to have to deal with this. Having the actors so close to the background means you can have green spill even on a black suit, okay? So there are some things that you really need to pay attention to during filming. All right, let's now move to alpha, show alpha, because all the work, okay, most of the work, 95% of the work of green screen keying happens on the alpha. So what is it that we need to do? Have you noticed that when I have selected here that we have clean blacks? Well, when you select a dark green, you are going to include all the bright ones. But when you select the bright greens, It does not necessarily include the dark ones. Shall we demonstrate this? Let's now demonstrate this part. Okay, we'll just click here and then remove show alpha and click on the bright one here. I've selected the bright. Let's move to the here. Well, I have included the bright, but I couldn't get the dark ones. Okay, the dark greens. So this is something to pay attention to. When you are selecting, yes, when you select the dark green, you are going a little bit aggressive, and by that you are taking the dark green that you find even on the suits, because when you have reflection on reflective objects like phones, shoes, shiny shoes, headsets here, for example, or glasses, you are going to have rather bright green. But when you have clothes here, can you notice this is blue and this is like greenish blue because his shoulder is close, very close, too close to the background, and you have this spillover. But this is dark. So when you select a darker green, let me move to the alpha again. When you select a dark green, let me quickly go back and select a green. When you select a dark green, you give yourself the advantage of including the bright ones, but at the same time, you may be hurting your edges. Let's have a better look at this by now selecting. Let me show you what happens if you just select somewhere. Right, select somewhere. Have you noticed this thing here on the left? Well, this provides us with the what kind of color is being selected, by the way? So let me just go for the blue, for example. If I go blue, have you noticed it has moved to the blue? You've got the blue, you've got the green, and you've got some other stuff we don't care about, right? So we've got the green and the blue. This is generally what we tend to use for green for keying. It's either a blue screen or a green screen. Now, this is what's been removed. Now, I am now going to let me go back to the green, just select somewhere. What does it say? Well, it shows me from the alpha here, because it did not include those darker greens, which you find here. But we can include them later. I'm going to play with this color quite a bit so that you understand them. I'm going to select and then reselect and then reselect so that you understand what each parameter does. Actually, the most important parameters, because some of them are kind of like just not that useful. So the most important bit is to understand this color bit. This is just like, do you got your green? You got your blue? Have you got a green screen? You pay attention here. Have you got a blue screen? You look at this part. And it is a matter now of when you tweak, you actually even see the changes that happen here. Let's come to the, I've just selected somewhere here. I just selected the green, but for the purposes of explaining things. If I wanted to key this one quickly, I would have done it with a different green, okay? I want you to, when you move to the part where it's talking about the chroma control, now we need to tweak parameters. I wished those two, inner softness and outer softness, were number 1 and number 2. Keyers have a certain number of parameters. They may give you the impression, and you may be tempted to start by the first parameter that is listed there. There's tolerance, there's key sat line, there's key saturation, there's inner softness. This is not the order. The order is inner softness. Let me see. Inner softness, outer softness, inner softness. Okay. This is the order. Inner softness first, because what does it do? I'll explain to you exactly what this fellow does. Have you noticed what happens? I'll explain even in mathematics, not really mathematics, but mathematically what happens in the background. What actually Avid Media Composer does when SpectraMath increases this parameter. Have you noticed what happens? Notice what happens both in here, in the black, and what happens here to the edges. Inner softness, and then reduce it. Increase, reduce. So I am including the dark greens. Okay, so I'm expanding the selection of the green to the dark greens, which basically means the result is going to be black, a netter, a cleaner black. Now, let's talk about inner softness and outer softness. I really don't know why they wanted to call it inner softness and outer softness. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Let me just put it like this. Yeah, it doesn't make any. They call it in a way that is, yeah, it doesn't match anything. It doesn't tell you anything. Let me tell you what it should be actually. And then outer softness. Before explaining outer softness, if I increase it, if I reduce it, so if you increase, you got more transparency. Who on earth would want to have more transparency? Now, that shouldn't be the case. If you decrease it, you're going to have less transparency in here, which basically means you get clean white and clean black. Now, inner softness, outer softness, we're going to now get deeper into these two fellows because these are your very, very, very first parameters to work with. Just ignore the tolerance bit stuff, whatever. I know they tend to be number 4 and 5. Actually, they should be number 1 and 2. And these are the first ones to start with. Mathematically, what is going on? What is this? This is black. Well, this is value 0. A pixel that is black is 0. And a pixel that's white is 1. Okay, so the values are between 0 and 1. And anywhere between the black and white. And between black and white, you get what? You get gray. Different flavors, different shades of gray, okay? You have dark gray, you've got light gray, you've got mid gray, you've got plenty of them. And they come in values. So 0.1 is what? It's a dark gray. Why? Because it's close to 0. You are going to understand, I need you to understand this part, because these are the basics of green screen keying in any software or keyer whatsoever. Okay? You need to understand this part. Zeros and ones, this is what, I'm not saying zeros and ones like the ones that are in the computer. I'm saying the bits and bytes and stuff. No, I'm talking about color information now. 0.1 is dark gray. 0.2 is also dark gray, but it's lighter than 0.1. And 0.3 is a little bit lighter until you come to 0.9, which is closer to 1. What was 1? It's a white. So 0.9 is light gray. Well, it doesn't come just 0.1. It's all the values in between. 0.232, 445. It's all sorts of, it's plenty of them, plenty of grays, okay? All right. Why are we talking about these grays? This is exactly what these two fellows, your most important parameters, this is what they do. Let me put them back. Let's just check. This is my outer softness, sorry, my inner softness. Let me bring it back. And I'll just check. Yeah. Okay, cool. What I was trying to put it back to, was it the default? I don't remember what was the default value actually. Was it 0? Okay, let's say that's a very good starting point actually. That's brilliant. I like this. So you have white, which is 1. Well, it doesn't mean everything is white. His shoulder here has got transparency. So this basically means this is gray. This is light gray, closer to the white. So it's going to be like 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. And what you find in here, what is this? Well, we want it to become 0, to become black. All of this needs to become black. But these are now like 0.1. And some of them are a bit even closer to this. They go as far as 0.6, 0. Whatever. So what do I need to do now? When I increase, inner softness, when I increase this one, I'm simply asking from spectra matte to convert the pixels that have gray values. As I go, I'm saying convert 0.1, now go to 0.2, now go to 0.3, now cover 0.4 as well. Can you go to 0.5? I also want 0.6. And all of them, convert them back to 0. This is what's happening. Exactly the same thing happens with what is called outer softness. I really don't want them to be calling it like this. Like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is clip black, this is clip white. This is how it's meant to be called, or convert gray to black, or convert gray to black, convert gray to white, whatever they want to call it, but it can't be softness. It's got absolutely nothing to do with softness. And even inner doesn't make any sense whatsoever because we're working on the outer space, on the outer part, and the outer one doesn't make any sense whatsoever because we're working on the inner one. Get used to the fact that the default values in keyers and the way they're called can be utter nonsense. Okay, because if you understand the mathematics behind the operations, then you start thinking, who called this stuff? Okay, so outer softness, which basically is nothing else than convert gray into white. When you are going to reduce it, you are pushing from 1 to down to 0.9, 0. Whatever, and the values here don't make any sense whatsoever. Just it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I wish they had 0 and 1, because that's what the pixels are, zeros, between 0 and 1, and all the grays. But you can, as you can notice, you can only use this part, the left part of this one. If you go any higher, you're going to find something really weird. Like, who, as I said, who on earth would want to increase transparency? No one. So why do I have this part here? I wished I could start from here. This is how it's meant to be. Clip black should start here as the default value, and this one should start here as the default value, and I should go down. Okay, so this, you bring it down, basically saying make all the light grays white. The result is then you have zeros and ones. You have 0 pixels, black pixels, and ones. Okay, and you do have sometimes some transparent areas around the hair, around the reflexive areas. That's fine. So what we have now is a clean alpha. Now that we have this clean alpha, and we'll be thinking, okay, so what are the other parameters? How can I possibly say that? In most cases, an utter waste of space, right? So, and this is not the only keyer, this is not the only software. You're going to find it back in Adobe Premiere, you're going to find it in a few other applications, that some parameters are a waste of space, right? So they are going to do some things, right? So if you are going to tweak key saturation line, okay, can you possibly explain to me why the hell would it even exist? Like, if this is a default value and I'm going to increase, and what it's doing is introducing noise in the background. Is this what green screen keying is meant? Is this what it's about? I thought it was the opposite. So this parameter here is an utter waste of space. Tolerance is another guest of honor, which definitely does increase the and reduce the color you select, but I would strongly recommend just don't waste your time with it at all. When you make your selection of the green, you make an informed selection. You come here, you work on your inner softness, outer softness, which is called wrong. So you work on your blacks, you work on your whites, and that's it. Like, that's it basically. So this is the, I mean, from the core part, that's it. Let me just put this one back to, yeah, you can open this stuff and then get some more control, but that's not what I'm looking for. It was 50, I guess. Let's just go back. Sorry, it was something like 100 here. 100. Okay. Keep it where it was. Don't touch it. It's a waste of space. Okay. These are the two main parameters you want to play with. Let me now come to the disable this one. Show alpha. Disable it. And now I have the keying. You have a clear black. You have clear and clean white. You're done. You have no problem with edges. You have, that's it. That basically is it, right? So you close this chroma control. So I really wish, let's just have a look. Let's just have a look at this nonsense. Show alpha. Look at this opacity here. An utter waste of space. Why would you include an opacity parameter in that would make the foreground transparent, the whole foreground transparent? Like, is it not something that is independent from green screen keying? I just feel they may have felt the need to make it look like overloaded with parameters and just adding stuff. This is all you need. Chroma control, you have your blacks and your whites, period. That's when you make the right selection here, right? Otherwise, you're going to have to tweak with this key sat line and key saturation. Now just look at this one. What does it do? See, it's quite, anyway, whatever. But I'm just explaining that if you choose to make your green crease key in Avid Media Composer and you use spectral math, it does work. Just choose your parameters carefully, okay? Now, math processing and spill, this spill, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. I'm going to remove the alpha, and when you increase, this is 5, increase angle offset. See what happens? Okay, it is operating as a hue shift, kind of, because it's working on the angle itself. I wouldn't want to go off board with this one. There's spill saturation. This, if you increase it, it does impact the spill saturation. But when I play with this one, do you notice any difference? Right, okay. So when it comes to spill suppression, I would rather go with slightly with this spill angle offset, because I'm saying slightly for the simple reason that if you go off board, it is going to, so what's it completely complete nonsense. But this part over here, however, is quite interesting, because when you go just between 5 and you go a little bit up, what happens is that you are then addressing some of the greens. Like when you shift it, it addresses the greens. Okay, and this is without any further tweaking of any other parameters whatsoever. This is how you can make your clean black and clean white matte with clean edges and do your compositing of, not really compositing, just green screen keying in Avid Media Composer Ultimate version with Spectra Matte.